Fuck, what time was it? I didn't actually pay attention. I should have. What time is it? In the game, I mean. Erica's 7 p.m. Probably dining time for dinner. Erica's seat was the lowest one in rank. In other words, it was at the inferior end of the table. Since Kinzo's seat at the high end of the table was empty, if you spun the whole thing around, it sort of looked like Erica was the host of this dinner. Well then, everyone, I would like to begin tonight's dinner if I may. Oh, I haven't eaten yet. I was not hungry at all when we had dinner earlier. Because I don't know, I just wasn't hungry. But now I'm beginning to become really hungry, and now they have to show a scene with food. After Goda's announcement, dinner began with the applause that had become almost customary. It was finally the beginning of the dinner orchestra conducted by Toshido Goda. Except for Klaus's household, sitting at such a majestic dinner table was no everyday thing for these people by any means. However, they were all used to this event and acted as though it was completely normal. Once again, if anyone was to be surprised, it should have been Erica, and yet she showed no signs of amazement at this dinner and acted with composure, blending in with everyone else. There wasn't even a sliver of the fear one might expect from someone who had wandered here like a lost puppy. What an odd child. She doesn't seem the least bit flustered by the Ushidomiya family's grandest dinner of the year. Kids these days have nerves of steel. Definitely not something I dislike. As Furuta-san used to meals such as this one, perhaps, she seems to be quite composed. No kidding. She looks really experienced. Heck, I also get confused about which fork I'm supposed to use next. Was it this one or this one? Whoa. Without showing any confusion over the line of utensils in front of her, Erica gracefully ate her aRdW. Hideyoshi had started joking around with her, gripping a fork in each hand. Of course, the president of a company in the food service industry like Hideyoshi obviously knew his table manners. However, thinking that Erica must be nervous over this dinner, he had intentionally spoken with a comic tone of voice. You just have to start on the outside and work your way in. If that's a pain, then just ask for some chopsticks. If you're Japanese, you've got to love chopsticks. Chopsticks are so great. Just one pair of those, and you can deal with any kind of food. I don't know where to start singing that. As soon as she began talking about chopsticks, her eyes started glittering. The smile she now showed for the first time was far different from the dignity she displayed before. More like something you'd expect from someone her age. But even you would use a spoon for curry and rice, wouldn't you? Just making a donburi bowl. Is there anyone who eats beef bowls with a spoon? Of course not. Yeah. For the Japanese, it's absolutely positively totally chopsticks. So Goda-san, would you mind bringing me some chopsticks? I want to show everyone how a true Japanese person should eat without any shame. By the way, what are we eating next? Unfortunately, that will be soup. Your wish came true, Christian. As she imitated a shrugging gesture, Erica winked at everyone. Of course, no one was laughing at her. She obviously knew that soup came after aRdW in a full-course meal. Oh, so she actually set up the joke. Furthermore, Erica had noticed both that she'd been performing too perfectly in creating a sense of tension, and that Hideyoshi had tried to break the ice because he thought she was nervous. Oh, she's very clever, I see. That's why she started acting a little childish and lighthearted, acting out the part of a guest enjoying a harmonious dinner. Pretty soon, not only Kiria, but everyone else caught on. Though she was an uninvited guest, she was apparently worthy of participating in an Ushidomiya family dinner. Smart kid. Did she really just come here by coincidence? Don't tell me you secretly called her your illegitimate child to today's family conference, Nissan. It seems she even has the smarts to brighten the mood, and her manners are simply wonderful. It wouldn't be bad at all to have this girl as a daughter. That's pretty cruel. Where does that leave Jessica-chan? See? Rosa's giggling because somebody's cruel to children. That makes her giggle. That's mean, Rudolph Nissan. What's wrong, Jessica-chan? Headache? I get the feeling my reputation's taking a dive. Well, if you're a daughter of the head family, you'd better not let her beat you. Try using those table manners and dignity on Natsui's I was training you with and fight back. I wanna see table manners. Hey, jumping around is bad manners. Come on, Jessica-chan. Show us how it's done. Sure, of course. It's not like I forgot or anything. Jessica straightened up so much it looked like someone had poked her back with a pole. She had good posture, but it somehow lacked elegance. She looked, well, kind of like a triangle ruler. She sat at attention with her gaze fixed straight ahead, tried to bring her food to her mouth despite this, and failed miserably. Those two words together always remind me of Chief Irons in Resident Evil 2, who says, "But I failed miserably." I've heard this line so many times. I cannot read these two words and not hear his voice in my head. The original Resident Evil 2. If you play as Claire, you meet Chief Irons, and he says that line, amongst other. Dad, who was sitting next to her, suddenly realized that something was up. What's wrong, Jessica-chan? Stomach ache? Jessica turned bright red. Sorry, I can't help myself. We laughed our heads off. Jessica protested, still bright red. Aunt Natsuhi scolded us for being too improper. Well, no matter how much we try to smooth it over, we are who we are. We couldn't pretend any longer. Also, having such a nice and fun scene just means that something horrible is gonna happen next. Still, that laugh really did help us to relax. We were so concerned about the guest getting nervous, we'd gotten even more nervous ourselves. Our chatter from the center of this long table spread to both ends, and ultimately the dinner went even more smoothly than usual. With some delicious cheese and coffee. Oh, don't mention stuff like that. Our peaceful meal came to an end. Gorda won unanimous acclaim and was praised for his skill by all present. After a short period of harmony following the meal, it was decided that we would return to the guest house. Normally, dinner tended to have a very dark atmosphere about it, and the adults would often keep that mood as they moved straight on to the family conference. However, perhaps because this year's dinner had been oddly peaceful, everyone decided to take a break, the adults included. No, I'm not going to grab a snack now. I'm just going to enjoy the looking forward to eating later. After eating, taking a bath, and relaxing while watching TV, I wonder if they'll gather again in the mansion with all this rain and resume that high-tension family conference of theirs. I'd rather not think about it. Apparently Aunt Eva was getting really worked up, trying to convince the rest to start the family conference right away, but it didn't look like many people agreed with her. They would probably call it quits for the night. Since they had guest house duty, Goda-san and Kumasawa-san were chosen to guide us to the guest house. Also, I'm just trying to remember who got killed in this fifth game. I think Jessica was killed, right? And Kenji? George as well? It's gotta be tough for Goda-san. Even after making and cleaning up such an extravagant dinner, he also has the late night shift at the guest house. I heard that Kumasawa-san, old as she was, would be going to sleep soon. It seems she was assigned a spare room. Allow me to guide everyone to the guest house. Erika-sama, a room has also been prepared for you. Thank you very much. So what about the letter that and the umbrella that Maria usually gets? I guess that didn't happen this time, and instead Erika came there? Want to rest a bit? Are you sure you feel okay? That's right. I'd totally forgotten, but you nearly drowned and floated here, didn't you, Erika-chan? You'd probably be better off taking it easy and getting to bed early tonight. I'm perfectly fine. On the contrary, I'm so nervous and excited that I doubt I could get any sleep. Then let's play! Let's all play together! Let's play cards! Maria latched onto her, giggling. This lack of restraint, peculiar to youth, was very much like Maria. However, we really should be concerned for Erika's physical condition right now. Maria, why don't you play cards with us? Erika Wenechan is tired. I like cards too. Please let me join you after I've had a short break. Well, alright. Who's that? As she passed through the lobby of the entrance hall, Erika stopped walking. When we saw what she was looking at, the rest of us also stopped. Oh, that is the Golden Witch Beatrice-sama. The Golden Witch? What are you doing, brats? Go on and head back to the guest house. Dad, Kiryu-san, Aunt Eva, Uncle Hideyoshi, and Aunt Rosa all came over. The entire guest house party had gathered. However, Erika's gaze was captured by the portrait of the witch, and she simply stared at it for a while. I just realized we already know the culprit for this episode, because it was stated already by Erika when we were almost at the end of the game that it would be Natsuhi. Yeah, supposedly Dad has a stash of hidden gold worth 20 billion yen, and this epitaph shows you where that gold is hidden. Perhaps it was too early for them all to disperse into their individual rooms, because the relatives who had returned to the guest house all gathered on the first floor, continuing their chat. The topic was the witch's epitaph, which Erika had taken an interest in. It really is a fascinating riddle. He stuck it out in a place where anyone could see it, challenging our intelligence. I love that kind of challenge. Yeah, then could you please solve it for us right now? Whoa, you seem surprisingly interested, Erika-chan. Do you like solving riddles or something? Don't challenges like this seem interesting? It seems pretty clear that Kinzo-san wants to use that epitaph to choose his successor. When she said that, the adult stopped moving and slowly turned to face Erika. Why do you think that? Aunt Eva spoke with a coaxing voice, though every now and then there had been whisperings among the relatives that whoever solved the epitaph riddle might be given the family inheritance. This had been no more than wishful thinking, since such a thing had never been specifically stated. And yet, though she had only read it once, this outsider had already reached that conclusion. How had she come to it? No, that's not the problem. If you solve the epitaph, you can become the next head. She wasn't trying to make it sound like wishful thinking, but an outright fact. So they closed in around Erika, asking why she was so sure. It's fairly common for an extremely rich person to relinquish his or her wealth to the solver of some sort of riddle. Furthermore, Kinzo-san didn't publish this epitaph in a newspaper, but displayed it in his mansion. That means the riddle is directed at the people in this mansion. You're right. Since it's inside the mansion, there's no way for someone who can't enter the mansion to solve it. So that means grandfather's been challenging the people here. Good. Well thought. Just by the simple fact that the epitaph is inside the mansion, it's possible to figure out that much. At first, this Fudo Erika girl seemed to be the fairly silent type, but that apparently wasn't the case. As she grew excited by a challenge to a game of wits, she became much more talkative than I'd imagined. Oh, I see. Well, it doesn't make sense that an epitaph inside a mansion would be there so the people in the mansion could read it. But can you really be sure that the one who solves it will be given the headship too? If the treasure gained by solving the riddle were something small, I wouldn't even have considered that. That's right. The hidden gold is worth 20 billion. You might consider that gold itself to be the wealth of the Yoshidomiya family. Inheriting something like that would be almost the same as inheriting the Yoshidomiya family itself. In other words, this riddle of the gold's hiding place buried within the epitaph is nothing less than a way of selecting the de facto successor of the Yoshidomiya family. The idea that the one who solved the epitaph would be chosen as the successor had been passed around by some of the relatives for a while now. However, since it had never been specifically announced... Oh, it's not actually written in the epitaph. I should have learned it by heart at this point, but I'm still not sure. No, I think it's not specifically written in the epitaph itself, is it? Since it had never been specifically announced, it was nothing more than an optimistic dream. Thinking this, they decided to abandon all consideration of this point until the details were made clear. Oh, I think it was in Beatrice's letter in episode 1. I think there it was said that whoever solves it would get the gold and become the head. So I guess before that, somehow I assumed that it had already been made clear before that. But I guess it hadn't. Not even sure anymore if it was written in the letter. But I'm sure it was mentioned somewhere. Erika had clearly declared that this uncertain point was in fact true. If one of the relatives had said it, people would have thought it to be merely an optimistic dream. However, when this was declared by a complete outsider, those words seemed even more credible. There's a line in the epitaph that says you will receive 4 treasures, one being all the gold. Yeah, but there's no line that says you will become the head, I guess. Everyone remained silent for a while, slowly considering what those words implied. Simply by the existence of the epitaph in that place, this level of reasoning is possible for Furoro Erika. What do you think, everyone? Sorry to butt in, but my dad's the successor. Finding the gold would be one thing, but that doesn't mean you get to be the head, right? Jessica thought the treasure hunting part of the epitaph was really fun. However, she couldn't help but let her expression grow bitter once they started talking about undermining her father's position. By using deductive reasoning based upon my theory, it seems likely that Kinzo-san doesn't want the successor class to inherit the position too smoothly. Why is that? Becoming the head of the Yoshidomiya family, with all of the vast wealth it entails, would mean gaining a great deal of influence in a political sense. So, under normal circumstances, the succession should be overseen rigorously without letting any element of chance creep into the equation. That's right. It happens a lot in those stories about Sengoku military commanders that my husband loves. When there are multiple candidates for the successor, it usually results in an eternal squabble. That's right. That's why it's important to clearly specify a successor so you can avoid any trouble. Sometimes there's even a purge of all the competing successors. The Sengoku commander Hideyoshi admired, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, made his son-in-law Hidetsugu commit seppuku. but it was rumored that he might have done this to make Hideyori, who was his real son and born after Hidetsugi, his true heir. In other words, naming a successor was a way to make it generally known that a single, unique person would be acknowledged by everyone, and a way to remove any chance of another person becoming an opposing candidate. Good. That's exactly right. The only purpose for an epitaph like that would be to cast doubt on Klaus-san's position as the successor. In other words, if Kinzel-san wanted Klaus-san to become the head smoothly, he'd have no reason to go out of his way and display something so dangerous for all to see. That's right. If you spin the chessboard around, you certainly could say that. It would be odd if he handed over the position of the head normally, but only handed over the 20 billion yen and go to the person who solved the riddle. Kinzel would pass on the title of family head, but he would only give up the 20 billion yen and go to the person who solved the epitaph. You really couldn't call this passing on the headship in the truest sense. That's how it is. By this theory, we are able to doubt whether Kinzel-san truly acknowledged Klaus-san as his successor. Simply by the existence of the epitaph in that place, this level of reasoning is possible for Fururo Erika. She doesn't exactly have self-confidence issues, does she? What do you think, Jessica-san? What the hell? How do you call that reasoning? That's bullshit. It's screwed up. Jessica let her emotions lay bare and glared at Erika. Erika, on the other hand, looked exceedingly calm with an expression that said, well, that's just the truth, right? I see. It looks like table manners aren't the only way this girl is fitting for the Yoshinomiya family. It seems she really doesn't match the family, even when it'd be better if she didn't. Okay, take it easy, Jessica. And Erika, let's leave it at that for now. I thought we were gonna play cards. Well, we can put all the successor stuff to the side for now. Anyway, there's no doubt that it's father's big question for us. Whoa, it's 20 billion yen. Maria-chan, what do you use it for if you found it? Candy, I guess. The Golden Land isn't just gold. It's a sacred place. Uncle Hideyoshi kept trying to force himself to chuckle and improve the mood. Everyone else tried to play along, but Jessica's mood didn't get any better. So, Erika-chan, would you like to have a go at the epitaph riddle? Yes. My little gray cells are itching to get started. I'd like to start solving as soon as possible. Please. George Aniki smoothly turned the conversation around. Just like the time she'd made everyone laugh in the dining hall, Erika looked about with gleeful eyes and jumped at the chance. I like it. Then she would become the head, though. Well, since Erika seems so interested, let's all try and solve it together, just like last year. I'll make some coffee. Raise your hand if you want some. Not for you, Maria. You won't be able to sleep. No, I want to drink black coffee. Don't they get you excited? Riddles like this? I love them. Erika said that and smiled. Though she must have known that she'd ticked Jessica off and made the atmosphere sour, she just smiled nonchalantly. See, without even waiting for the crime on October 5th, there's a riddle you can solve. I've tried to solve it many times myself, but you didn't have a clue, so you gave up and stopped thinking, right? Pissed me off, but I don't have a good counter for that. After all, I don't get the epitaph at all. I don't even know what the beloved hometown means, much less the parts about the Sweetfish River and the Key. Yeah, I gave it so much thought, and Zemon gave it so much thought, but no luck. I even looked up, like people who maybe had the name Ayukawa or other spellings of when you put the kanji for the fish and the kawa together. See if that brought me anywhere, but nah. I thought of like body parts or something, because if I looked at an atlas and there was not just a geographical atlas but also a biological atlas, didn't really tell me anything either. And so many other ideas, but nothing really clicked. So I guess I'm also too dumb. Thinking that a few more hints would show up if I waited, I kept on waiting and just stopped thinking. Have you figured out an answer of your own? Because I'm about to solve it. Okay, that's it for today's stream. Good night. No. What? This is where Byrne solved the riddle of the epitaph. I'd expect no less from the Witch of Miracles. If a riddle is solvable, she can solve it without fail, regardless of the difficulty. How many years did it take to solve this one? That's rude. I only fished through a few hundred fragments. You really are terrifying. You aren't going to cheat by suddenly saying the answer in red or something like that, right? Don't worry. Just like you, I follow the rules as a player. Oh, shall we begin? It's cramped here. Why don't we talk over the sea? What do you mean, why don't we talk over the sea? Okay, don't get queasy, Battler. What do you mean, the sea? Just don't tell me it's something geographical after all, because I'm... or do I remember that wrongly? But I think somebody in the episode 3 said that it definitely isn't to do with geography. I don't know anymore. I thought the whole world had turned pitch black, and the next moment I was struck by a strange floating sensation. This must be what it feels like to suddenly have the floor drop from under you, sending you into a bottomless pit. When I looked, I saw that the two witches and I had been thrown into a pitch-black universe. In this space, every direction was covered in an endless darkness, and it felt like a limitless expanse filled with countless glittering objects. Some people might have likened it to the depths of an ocean where innumerable sparkling fragments drifted. Yeah, that's right, Christian. Didn't you tell you not to get queasy? If you want the concept of gravity, just create it yourself. Okay, come on, calm down. Come down and look at us. Come on, don't we look like we're just fine? Believe that your feet are on the ground and that you're being controlled by gravity. If you do that, you'll find your equilibrium. Yes, the two witches are standing normally as if their feet were planted on transparent pieces of glass. I'm the only one floating about like someone in a rapidly plummeting elevator. When I saw that they were doing just fine, I started calming down, figuring that there was no need to be scared. Then, just as Lambda Delta said, I gritted my teeth and kept telling myself that there was a place to stand here and that I had to stay calm. Whoa. Very good, very good. What's your name? Ushido Battler. Who else do I look like? Okay, you mustn't lose your will, emotions, or form. After all, this is the ocean. If you lose your purpose, you'll fall into the depths of fraternity and become a scrap of ocean seaweed. Be careful. I don't get what Lambda Delta is saying, but I should calm down for the time being. It seems that I regain my equilibrium the more I calm down. Gradually, that weird floating feeling like I was falling forever began to disappear. It still felt strange, like trying to stand up straight at the bottom of a deep pool, but it was much better than before. Then let's begin. I'll weave together some fragments for solving the riddle of the epitaph. Yeah, you do your thing. Bernkastel opened both of her hands. Then, like a planetarium, all of the fragments throughout this empty space began to spin, leaving tails behind them. The expression planetarium might have been surprisingly fitting. Multiple fragments were tied together by gold lines, and what looked like constellations zoomed by us rapidly one after another. It felt almost as though we were dashing through space at an incredible speed. Then, with tails of light drifting behind them, several brightly glowing fragments swirled around Bernkastel. It looked almost like she'd created her own solar system with her as the sun. That solar system surrounding Bernkastel grew to a radius large enough to swallow us up. And every once in a while, one of those satellite fragments zoomed right past me. Hey, hold on. Hold on. Could you... When those fragments passed by me, it felt as though some kind of memory welled up inside me. Someone made this place in VR? So I sensed it. These fragments are probably like a crystallization of memories. They aren't memories, they're fragments of worlds. Well, I guess they might feel like memories to you. Then let's begin. Let's start with this fragment. One of the satellites of the solar system was slowly sucked into an inward trajectory with Bernkastel at the center. After drawing a spiral and approaching her, it settled down on the palm of Bernkastel's outstretched hand. Then it glittered brightly, painting over the world with pure white. The beloved hometown definitely won't betray our expectations. The only past father idea happened during his childhood years. I remember that. This is from the third game when Aunt Eva was just about to solve the riddle of the epitaph and was thinking it over with this witch inside her or whatever. That's right. And from these thoughts, she made her way to the correct answer. In other words, this fragment shows a vital hint for reaching the truth. Does it? Okay. It means that this theory is not mistaken. What theory? Only past fatherhood deer happened during his childhood years. So you're saying we should assume this beloved hometown isn't a metaphor or anything like that, but the place grandfather actually spent his youth? That's right. And at the very least, it isn't Odawara. Odawara is definitely where he was born, but I don't think that's the hometown he loved. I imagine all of his siblings have the same place in mind. Right. This probably isn't Odawara. From what I've heard, he had a very fun time as a youth. That's right. Aunt Eva and her siblings said it wasn't Odawara, and not only that, it looks like everyone guessed where grandfather's hometown was. Right. And annoyingly, the actual location isn't spoken of in any of the fragments. Well, duh. If I told you that, there'd be too many hints. If it wasn't a hard riddle, there'd be no point to it. Uh-oh, that's a hint too. Just where is this hometown of grandfather's? We can't even start if we don't know that. You mean you couldn't start, so you stopped thinking? Since it had to be a place where he could have lived, the number of possibilities is limited. Well, this is the toughest part. You were the witch who could certainly solve any riddle that can be solved, weren't you? So you took those limited possibilities, in other words, everywhere on the earth, and considered every single piece of land that grandfather might have lived on? That would work too, but that way no amount of time would be enough. So I needed to take some more hints into consideration to wring out the answer. Didn't you say it yourself? You said it didn't have to be a river with water flowing down it. If the word sweetfish is too complicated, why not forget it? Think of a river. Linking it with a family tree wasn't a bad idea. Try thinking about how to link a river with something else along those lines. A sweetfish river running through the hometown. However, this river isn't truly a river. If I thought of something else, something that could be linked to the river. Sure, but if it isn't a river, then why the sweetfish? Think. A river that runs through the hometown. But it isn't a river with water running down it. Something that can be likened to a river. Behold the Sweetfish River running through the beloved hometown. Eva knew where the hometown was, so she could forget about the Sweetfish hint. However, since we don't know where it is, this could be a hint for us. I worried too much about the Sweetfish River. The Sweetfish part didn't really matter that much at all, did it? That isn't true. It was an excellent hint, wasn't it? Well, of course, maybe there was no need for it to be Sweetfish. What are these sweetfish? If the river isn't a little river, then of course sweetfish probably doesn't mean the kind of fish that swims. Yeah, and on top of that, Rosa tossed it aside saying that sweetfish weren't that significant. On the other hand, Eva said it wasn't important for them to be sweetfish, but that it was still an excellent hint. In other words, the sweetfish is a key to make you think of something else. If that something is a different word, but a word that sweetfish makes you think of, then Eva's line about how it probably didn't have to sweetfish makes sense. From these thoughts, Aunt Eva formed some theory, went to the library, looked through some books, and verified that she was right. In short, Aunt Eva formed some theory about the true nature of the Sweetfish River running through her hometown. Then she opened a certain book to determine whether the theory was correct or not. In other words, this theory was something that could be verified through some kind of book. Also, after she figured out what the Sweetfish River was, she figured out the rest of the riddle very quickly. Good thinking. The appellative continues on, saying as you travel down the river, you will see a village. At that point in time, Eva hadn't yet solved the 3 lines starting with this one. What is this village? What does it mean? Do you find one if you're going on the river? Right before my eyes, the pieces that I hadn't been able to understand at all began to snap into place all by themselves. I couldn't even remember to close my open mouth. My throat grew completely dry. Is it really okay for this to be the answer? Really? Really? So, if we figure out what the Sweetfish River running through the hometown is, that leads us directly to understanding the as you travel down the river you will see a village stuff, and then we get the key to the Golden Land. Correct. And we know that because even Eva didn't know what the village meant until she checked the book. Damn it. Just what is this book? But this isn't 6 characters at all. I'm absolutely sure this is the answer, but this doesn't reach 6 characters at all. Could you stop thinking again? In that case, think of a way you could read it with 6 characters. If you can't think of one, then research it. There has to be an answer. You must not doubt that. I was believing in that too much for you. If only you just cry yourself to sleep and then you can just give up and die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 characters. I found it. This is the key to the Golden Land. Yeah, still I have no idea. Then Eva found the key to the Golden Land. Yeah, and this key was some kind of word, number, or string of characters, 6 characters long. That's it. If we know the key is true identity, it has 6 characters, the meaning of the first Twilight changes drastically. On the first Twilight, of the 6 chosen by the key is sacrifices. The 6 chosen by the key, 6 characters. In other words, it means to sacrifice the 6 characters chosen by the key on the first Twilight. This key indicates a certain group of 6 people. No, we should say it indicates a certain group of 6 things. If this doesn't mean a literal command to offer sacrifices, for example, it could be an anagram. An anagram? You mean playing with letters? Yes, Kiryu-san has been thinking that way ever since that moment. On the second Twilight, there are those who will remain, which means that at the very least, that something has a limited number of characters. You could read it like it's telling you to continue with the remaining characters after the first 6 characters are removed. In other words, in the first Twilight, we take a list of characters that's longer than 6, kill the 6 that are the key, and then do something with the characters that remain. That's right. But like Kiryu said, what should we kill the characters from? We don't know this longer string of characters that we're supposed to be killing from. On the first Twilight, kill the 6 characters that are the key. So in the Japanese, there's an extra no in one of the lines, and in English, it has this additional, what was it? Once and for the last time or something like that. I was thinking if it was something like in Virtue's Last Reward, where they put another letter in there to make the anagram work. So like the no in the Japanese was also there, because otherwise taking the characters away from something wouldn't work. But does that mean that it's the sentence with the no in it where you have to take characters from? I don't know. On the first Twilight, kill the 6 characters that are the key. On the first Twilight. In other words, by the time we reach the first Twilight, some string of characters already exists. That might be a set of Japanese characters, but knowing Grandfather's taste, could it be something in English? The first Twilight is more than 6 characters, even though the Japanese phrase is just 4. Good. That idea of yours isn't bad, Battler-san. We can interpret the 6 characters chosen by the key as a string of 6 characters. I think it's a very clever concept. That way the key doesn't necessarily have to be key-shaped. I've also considered the possibility that it is an anagram. Come to think of it, you did say something like that before. But in that case, where do we take the 6 characters out from? That's right. Since we're taking 6 characters out, it must be at least 6 characters long. We need to reach Daiichi no Ban in some way that gives it more than 6 characters. If we follow Father's sensibilities, I guess that probably is English after all. If it looks like we're getting stuck, why don't we move on to the second Twilight and look for hints? Those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. We can probably think of those who remain as the remaining characters of the first 6 have been taken out. In that case, what does it mean by 2 characters that are close? I see. I get it. So that's what this is about. For example, let's take the following list of 9 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then let's say that the 6 characters offered as sacrifices are 1, 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9. In this case, we erase the aforementioned 6 characters from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and get x, 2, x, 4, 5, x, 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 x. So 2, 4, and 5 are left. So 1.
4 and 5 are close.
Yeah, I get it. So the 2 are closer. Yep, there's a gap between 2 and 4, but 4 and 5 are right next to each other. They're the 2 who are close.
Good.
So you insert a space there or what?
Well done, Battler-san. We can't tell whether tear apart means to crush 4 and 5, or to put a gap between them, but I think that's a good observation.
Then what do you think about the third Twilight? Those who remain shall praise my noble name.
Since there's a good chance that we're playing with letters, this might be the same thing. The characters that remain shall praise my noble name.
Lost stuff. What could it mean?
Does anybody know? Anyone? I think I do. Huh? What is it? Tell me.
Is this also an anagram?
Once again, good though. Battler-san, you're a pretty flexible thinker. By anagram, you mean playing with letters, right? That means... In other words, maybe you can make some kind of word by changing the order of the remaining letters.
Yeah, if so, I might be getting ahead of myself with this theory, but maybe the original list of characters that the first Twilight's removed from is 11 characters long.
Well done again. I reached the same conclusion.
Why is that? Why do you think there are 11 characters?
We think killing a single sacrifice means crushing a single character.
Holy shit. I got attacked by the microphone.
If we interpret the terror part of the second Twilight to mean adding a gap between two characters, then there are 11 characters total. If terror part means to crush those two characters, then we can assume that there are 13 characters. After all, from the 4th Twilight to the 8th Twilight, the word kill appears 5 times, and then on the 9th Twilight it's written that none will be left alive.
If we ignore the part about the witch reviving for now, I figured that after crushing the first 6, separating the characters that are close, and then crushing 5 more of them, there should be no characters left. So that makes 6 plus 5, or 11 characters. If tearing apart the 2 who are close in the second Twilight means to kill both of them, that makes 6 plus 2 plus 5, or 13 characters. There's a chance the word symbolizing the first Twilight as 11 or 13 characters. Wait, it couldn't be that easy, could it?
Wonderfully done. That's the exact same theory I thought of. It looks like you were gifted with excellent little grey cells, just like me, Bella-san.
I actually did go through words that have 11 or 13 letters at some point. I don't even remember anymore why I did that. I think just because it's the amount of sacrifices or something. And I think Golden Witch has 11 characters. Hey, quit it. Just doing what comes naturally. Hey, what the hell? The Peace Me is pretty damn smart. There's no room left for me to make theories.
Oh, sorry about that. You weren't around at this point, so I just controlled your piece for you. Isn't it nice how smart I made you look?
That's funny, so she's controlling Butler and herself at this point.
You look smarter when Burns playing you. Why not step down as player and concentrate on being a stupid piece instead?
I joined in on this game partway through, well after the first murders occurred on October 5th. That means the piece called Me was controlled by the player Bancastle, so I guess that means it's possible for Bancastle's reasoning to be announced through my mouth. The game I'm watching now is nothing more than a replay of a part that's already ended. However, that's probably good enough for now. After all this, Bancastle somehow is going out of her way to solve the epitaph for me. I'll watch closely for now, and I'll try to find out what it means. Lambda Delta let it slip herself just a second ago.
Well, duh. If I told you that, there'd be too many hints. If it wasn't a hard riddle, there'd be no point to it. Uh-oh. That's a hint too.
This theory about Grandfather creating the epitaph in order to choose a successor isn't bad at all. Erica and Bancastle's logic is extremely reasonable, but that's only if we assume Grandfather was the one who created. He was probably alive at the time the epitaph was displayed, but of course Grandfather is already dead by 1986, and in the games up until now, Beatrice threatened us repeatedly with letters saying that the only way to survive was to solve the epitaph, and trying to force us to solve the riddle. In other words, it was Beatrice's intention, her hope, that we would try solving the riddle of the epitaph. The epitaph's so confusing that in most cases, the relatives never seriously tried solving it until the threatening letters started to arrive. That's why Beatrice fired the starting pistol that made us take a go at it. Why is Beatrice carrying out Grandfather's will after his death? Like the theory proposed in the first game, is Beatrice really Grandfather's confidant, who's following his orders even after his death and trying to select the successor with the riddle of the epitaph in Grandfather's stead? If she did that, it would mean Beatrice really was Kinzo's trusted underling, the family alchemist she claimed to be in that letter. After Grandfather's death, Beatrice managed the 10 tons of gold and took the title of alchemist. She was entrusted with the epitaph's riddle, and without ever embezzling the gold, she waited for a human fitting to be the successor to appear and solve it. And if that human didn't appear within a set time limit, would that be game over? Certainly Aunt Eva, who solved the riddle in the third game, became the only survivor and automatically the final head of the Shudomiya family, inheriting everything. Up until now, no one has ever survived past October 5th except Aunt Eva, the one who solved the epitaph. That was the only case where Beatrice let anyone survive. Is Beatrice's loyalty to Grandfather the thing that drove her? Was she so loyal that she faithfully carried out some terrible order? To kill everyone if the epitaph wasn't solved? I mustn't stop thinking. Don't stop thinking.
Don't just think of the riddle itself, think about why it's significant. Why is Beatrice telling us to solve the epitaph? Why is she making us solve such a confusing epitaph? If Beatrice makes us try and solve this epitaph, we have no real chance of solving, and by some lucky chance a miracle occurs and someone is able to solve it. What significance would that have to her? I don't know what such a miracle would be worth to Beato. Anyway, until we figure out the first Twilight, we'll have to give up on the rest. We tried looking at it from several different angles, but in the end we got stuck there and made no further advances. Maria let out an extra large yawn. This caused several other people to yawn. We'd been using our heads so much that everyone had gotten a little sleepy. Jessica, who'd been silent and irritated the whole time, quickly stood up. I'm going upstairs with Maria. Watch TV or something. Okay, I'll go up too. Hey, why don't we all play cards upstairs? Aren't you two gonna get killed soon? When George proposed this, Maria completely forgot about the big yawn of hers and started jumping around, insisting that she wanted to play cards. According to the clock, it was already 10 at night. It was already about the time you'd normally take a bath and get ready for sleep. Even the adults seemed pretty wary from traveling. We decided to continue this later and went our separate ways. Will you play cards with us too, Erika-chan? I appreciate the sentiment. I overstepped my bounds a little, forgetting that I'm a simple guest. I'd like to take it easy and rest for the night. I almost forgot I was recently in an accident. Seriously, you're in such high spirits it's hard to believe you almost drowned. That's youth for you. Still, I enjoyed it. I think we've taken a big step in our reasoning thanks to you. If I find the gold, I'll let you have about 1,000,000 yen worth. Can't you at least offer the poor girl 100 million? No need to bother. I'm only interested in solving the riddle. Well then, if you'll excuse me, good night. Yep, night. Oh, you aren't going upstairs, Pelican? I'm getting a bit interested. I'll think things through here just a bit longer. If I can just figure out the list of characters that marks the first Twilight, I bet the road before me will open up all at once. Everyone went up to the second floor one by one. Only Aunt Rosa remained behind, cleaning up the coffee cups everyone had been drinking out of. Kiria-san and some others had offered to help, but Rosa had refused and was washing them all alone. Since I'd just been treated to such delicious coffee, I decided to help too. I wasn't just doing it because I felt obligated. I wanted to keep discussing the epitaph with someone. The first Twilight. Aunt Rosa, have you thought of some list of characters or word? No. I don't have a clue. But instead of the first Twilight, it's the 10th Twilight that bugs me. The 10th Twilight? What about it? Well, at the end here it says you'll receive the Golden Lens for treasures once and for the last time, right? Yeah, it does. Why mention that you're reaching the Golden Lens just once and then say it's for the last time? It's almost as though he's repeating the same thing twice. I've just been wondering whether he had some reason for putting it like that. You're right. Like you said, there's gotta be a more straightforward way of saying that. That line should have been a key part of the riddle where you wouldn't expect the writer to waste words needlessly. Could it have been done for some special purpose? Yeah, I'm still thinking maybe it's like in the E in Virtue's Last Reward, where you just had to put something in there to make some kind of play with words work. But I don't know. Still, you and that Erika-chan girl are incredible. Your minds really are flexible. I'm already an old lady and my brain just doesn't work that fast. The theory about the 6 chosen by the key signifying 6 characters to be removed was very impressive. After hearing that, I can't see it as being any other way. But before then, I didn't think it was like that at all. I'm feeling let down by my own dull mind. That's not true. You've got a flexible mind yourself, Aunt Rosa, and a flexible hand when it comes to your child. This last time thing might be really important somewhere down the line. Not at all. My mind is very stiff. Up until now, I've always thought that this first Twilight was nothing more than a place on 1/10 of the way on the road to the Golden Land. Was that? Sounds interesting. Mind telling me about it? That's because your brain is full of tequila, sunrise, and child neglect, yeah. After all, in the line before the first Twilight, it says you must travel to the Golden Land, right? The next part describes a journey that lasts 10 days, so I thought the first Twilight would be part of the way through the journey. A journey, I see. Then the journey begins, and when you set up camp at the first Twilight, you offer the 6 as sacrifices. So where would the place be? How many kilometers from the starting point? Please don't tell anyone about your aunt's... Oh, it's Rosa. please don't tell anyone about your aunt's silly ideas, okay? When I first saw that part about attaining to the treasures of the Golden Land, I just assumed it was more of the same. Typically, attaining treasures would mean obtaining them, but I thought it meant reaching or arriving at some place 10 days away from Father's hometown where all these treasures might be found. Are you kidding? That's a brilliant idea. And the first twilight is the first stop on that 10-day journey. The name of that place might be the key to moving forward. For my 10-day theory to work, you'd have to know both the start point and the end point. I know the start point. I know the hometown Father loved. The place Father spent his time when he was a boy really is far away. But the problem is the goal, the Golden Land. What does that really mean? If we don't know that, my theory gets us nowhere. I've been stuck at this spot for a long time, but after listening to your reasoning today, I've realized what an embarrassing mistake I've been making. No, I think that's still an interesting idea. Start at a goal, a 10-day journey, and the place reached at the very first twilight. Believe it or not, I think you might solve this one easily, Battler Gun. Since you're not Battler this time. If you do solve it with your aunt's hint, share some with me. Even 5% would be great. It's a promise. Despite being my aunt, she gave me a smile and a wink which would have made a man's heart jump. As I helped her wash the coffee cups, I kept pondering the epitaph riddle in silence. After I finished helping Aunt Rosa, I passed through the corridor on my way to the bathroom and saw Erica unlocking the door to a room on my path. I thought your room was on the second floor. Figured you'd gone upstairs and had fallen asleep by now. I was just searching for something. I thought it might be here. Searching for something? The library, I guess. Erica unlocked the door and opened it. My neck hurts a bit. I'm just going to lean back like this. Although the camera doesn't show me anymore. Whatever. Erica unlocked the door and opened it. A dusty smell drifted out. It was the library. For a library, the gaps between bookshelves were extremely small. This was obviously built for storing books, not reading them. So, it's a book you're searching for. Not necessarily a book, but materials, I guess you could say. There's something I've just got to look up. You're looking for something to do with the epitaph's riddle? Pretty impressive that you haven't given up yet. Is the 20 billion yen that enticing? I hadn't given up either. Apparently being stubborn is something we both share. Of course not. I'm only interested in solving puzzles. I search for the gold only to prove my reasoning correct. Even if I found it, I wouldn't pocket it for myself, so I have no fears on that score. She immediately cast my comment aside, saying that she just looked like solving riddles and had no interest at all in the gold. I thought she was pretty weird from the start, and it looks like that impression was spot on. Erica slowly circled the bookshelves, searching for the book she was after. So has anybody already solved it? Because I still haven't. I'm also trying to solve the epitaph right now. Oh yeah, just a second ago I heard something interesting from Aunt Rosa which might give us a hint about the first twilight. Let me hear it. Let me hear it. Erica asked this without stopping her search or even turning to face me. In the line before the first twilight it says that one who obtains the key must do so and so. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance with these rules. Oh, that was Erica. Oh, you've already got it memorized. Guess I shouldn't be surprised. And what about that? Yeah, you've got to travel to the Golden Land, right? Apparently this made Aunt Rosa think about the 10th twilight. In other words, going on a 10-day journey from the beloved homeland to the Golden Land. Actually, I'd already noticed that myself. You start from the place reached on the first day of the 10-day journey. What do you mean, you start from the place reached on the first day? Oh, okay. That's where you take the sacrifices from. Yeah, that's what our Aunt Rosa thought of too. I think the theory is pretty intriguing. Well, we're looking for the place you'd reach on the first day of a 10-day journey. That bit of land, or else the name of the region, might be a key. I also guess that the place's name might be a key. That's why I'm looking for materials. I want to turn my guess into certainty. Just what are you looking for? Then Erica's hand suddenly stopped and she slowly pulled it out. As she dusted it off, she finally looked at me and spoke. It's an atlas.